Hey there guys, so today's video is going to be quite a bit different, with it being the end of the harvest season here and I've been done for nearly a month now. I wanted to put together a video showcasing all of my total inputs and outputs for growing soybeans for the 2025 season. Basically just essentially going through what a beginning farmer, what my inputs were, not including my machinery that I had to buy this spring, because if I had to include all that, it would just be an enormous amount of information all in one document here. So this is basically just my raw inputs and raw outputs. And then basically, if we're going to move any of this into corn for next year, how it's all going to play out, I don't know yet. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the spreadsheet. Okay guys, so we planted 4.8 total acres. 2.9 acres up in the front field was planted on May 15th. 1.9 acres was planted on May 30th. I don't have that here on the spreadsheet, but these are just notes I'm going off of here. The seed I went ahead and planted this year was a Bex 3140 E3 hybrid. I ended up purchasing 7 units of this seed, and I ended up with about a half of a unit left over, and the total cost for that seed was $452.90, which comes out to $64.70 a unit. Now, I did learn after the fact that I could have saved a lot of money by going with a couple of other choices, but we can get into that later. Moving on to my chemical costs. I spent a total of $385.61 on chemical this year, in which I only used $172.40 of that chemical. Moving on to our fuel maintenance and basically anything that broke down what I had to fix. So we're figuring about $100 in fuel because, let's be honest, to farm 5 acres, it doesn't really take that much fuel. And as far as parts go, I did have to buy a few hydraulic hoses for the planter. I had to buy some disc blades for the disc, and really that's about all I had as far as maintenance goes. Now moving into the labor tab here. This was kind of hard to figure out because honestly, I didn't take very good track of my labor that I had this year, and I was out in the fields quite a bit. I spent a lot of time spraying and prepping the ground, tillage, and then planting, and then walking the beans. I mean, I was out in that field, or both fields, basically every week, walking through, picking weeds, anything that I missed because my spray job wasn't the best. And so yeah, there's definitely room for improvement there. But I figured overall we had about $600 in labor, which brings our overall inputs, just growing the crop, to $1,378.66. Now, the crop grew throughout the year. We did some maintenance. We did have a culvert pipe put in on the farm and some other things, and we may include that in a later video. Okay, moving into our combining to harvest our crop here. So the average for Indiana is $172.51 to harvest the 5 acres like this. I believe it comes into like right around $45 an acre, $35 to $45 an acre. In reality, the neighbor guy only charged me $100 to combine these soybeans. Honestly, I tried to pay him more, and he just refused. He said that $100 was really plenty. So I had a lot less in my actual combining than what an average person would have in that. And then my total rent from the farm was $240 an acre, which came out to $1,152 even. And that's kind of on the high side for our county. Average runs around $225 to $235. So moving on into our harvest income here. This is the outputs off this farm. So we ended up raising 62.5 bushel to the acre soybeans, which gave us a total of 300 bushels on the dot. Now, the day that I sold my soybeans to the elevator, the price was starting to come up, and it was $9.84 a bushel. Now that I sit here a month later, soybeans are like $1 more a bushel than that. So maybe some storage in the future wouldn't be such a bad idea. So that brings our gross total income off this farm to $2,952. Now, if we subtract our inputs and our rent, that brings our net income to $321.34. It's definitely not much, but hey, at least it's still in the green for now. Now we could drop that net income down, and that could be our net income for the year, and we move on. But I wanted to go ahead and get a jump start on the 2026 season, and so I did have a company come in and soil test the farm because I had no idea what we even had as far as nutrition in the ground. So I definitely had to get a soil test done. So a soil test cost me $385. And based off that soil test, I needed to get roughly 1,000 pounds of AMS and 1,000 pounds of potash. Everything else was in the green and looked really good. So I only had $551.91 in fertilizer. But that brings my fall total cost to $937.91. So if we're going to add that last expenditure I just had onto this year's total income outcome, that's going to bring us to a negative $616.57 on the year. But that covers our fertilizer going into 2026 and into 2027 soybeans, because we're going to be on a 2-year nutrition plan here. So as we're nearing the end here, what did I learn? What are some key takeaways from this year? So I would start off by saying I definitely overpaid for seed. I did find out that I could purchase very comparable seed for about $15 a unit cheaper. So just there would have been, we're looking at $80 to $100 just in seed there. Also planting time. I found out last minute that I was going to be farming this farm this year, and so I had to go and I had to buy everything last minute and buy my seed and all this stuff, and I wasn't prepared at all to do any of this. So another thing that would help me out is maybe getting planted maybe 2 weeks earlier. I really wish I would have had both fields planted on the same day, but due to some issues with the planter, I had to plant them roughly 15 days apart, and that did hurt me in the end. Moving on to chemical and my spraying. I did learn this year that your chemical application is certainly key to keeping weeds down. I found out how much of a pain it is when you don't have proper coverage. When you miss some spots, it's very, very obvious, especially in 30-inch row beans. So yes, scouting is super important. I did a lot of that this year, checking for disease, because I was not planning on spraying a fungicide. We just didn't have enough rainfall in the area for me to even think about doing that. And with the price that soybeans were bringing at the time, it just didn't math out right. So, and then harvest moisture. I learned that harvest moisture is extremely important. So I had checked my soybeans one week. I think this was probably September 25th. I checked the moisture on my soybeans, and they were at like 14%. And I was like, okay, we're getting really close. And then I came back a couple days later, and we're at 11%. And I'm going, oh boy, these are drying down faster than I thought. And then by the time that I was able to get my neighbor to come combine for me, he was finishing up all of his soybeans for the year, he was able to come over and start on mine. We were all the way down to like 8.5 points moisture, ranging between 8.5 to 9.2 to 9.5, depending on where you were in the field. So yeah, we definitely got killed on moisture. Had we been able to harvest my soybeans at 13 to 14% moisture, we could have gained roughly 4 to 6 bushels there, so we might have averaged right around 66 bushels to the acre there. So as we wrap this video up, I just want to let you guys know that I really enjoy making these videos, and I just wanted to create this video to showcase all the data that I have from this year and how much it cost me to get into this and how much I made and whether or not this was really a successful season or not. I'll be the judge of that. I'll say yes, I learned a lot, and I think that'll be pretty helpful in the years moving forward. And yeah, so it wasn't a great money maker, and I didn't expect it to be, but I had a lot of fun doing it, and I can't wait to go into the 2026 season here and make some more videos for you guys. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you found it informative at all, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're just trying to grow so we can reach out to more people. Thanks, guys.